You turn my morning into dancing. Your love changes everything. There's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything.
Good morning. Caught me doing a little looking things up here at the last minute. Sorry about that. You ever plan a devotion and as you're doing it, you go, oh, I missed that. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there reading it this morning and for the third or fourth time and I'm like, I didn't see that first 10 times. How's everybody doing this morning? We have a beautiful day, it looks like. Going down to Greendale this weekend, a little excited about that. Get to do a road trip and visit our friends down in Greendale, Indiana. It's going to be fun. We have 12 people on right now. 12 people that had no idea I was going to be on. That's pretty cool. Let's start. Let's go to the top here if we can. And, first one was Ken Gooch. Nice to see you, Ken. We were at the Chuck B and Ken and I were at the worship night last night. Pizza and Praise. For the life of me, I don't understand why that place isn't full. That is such a nice event. You get nice music and food, and you just hang out and pray a little bit and have a little fun. It's a good Christian fellowship, and man, I'd love to understand why it's not a full house. Good morning, Tom. It's nice to see you here this morning. Chris Connolly, always a pleasure. And we have Bert Reggiani. Bert Reggiani, it's good to see you this morning. And Brian Flaming. Good morning, Brian. Isaac, I hope I'm saying it right. Please correct me if I'm not. And Chuck B. I agree. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Especially it's a night of entertainment and fun and it's free. It should be busting down the doors. But it's not for us. I guess it's not for us to decide that stuff, is it? This morning we're going to be talking from Mark 10, verses 32 to 45. So there's quite a bit there. And I was trying to find a way where I could get it all on the screen with me. And I think I did it. But it is okay. Thank you, guys. All right. For anybody that doesn't know, that's confirmed. All right. It's nice to have you here. That's for sure. All right. So I think I found it. I think I found a way. And it'll reduce me to a really small spot, which is awesome too, because too much of me is definitely not a good thing. Okay, let me do this. Oh, but now I can't read it, so I have to expand it. There we go. Whew. You know, I love this software. This is amazing that we can look at this and do this. This is something that up until 10 years ago was like unheard of, only except for professional production companies. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. They were on their way to Jerusalem with Jesus leading the way, and the disciples were astonished. This is what I noticed this morning when I was reading this. And I had to read back and remember that they were astonished. And they were astonished earlier because Jesus had just talked to the rich man who was very wealthy, but was heartbroken when he found out he had to sell everything he had to follow Jesus. But it was weird that it stuck in this phrase, which is kind of different, but I think his teachings were getting so deliberate and so direct and to the point that it was not that uncommon that they were astonished by what he said. There'll be times coming up where people will leave him and stop following him because what they hear is troubling. Anyway, that was why I started reading backwards when I came online. While those who followed him were afraid, again, he took the 12 aside and told them what was going to happen to him. He said, "We're going up to Jerusalem," he said, "and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death and will hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him, spit on him, and flog him and kill him. and 3 days later he will rise. It's hard to imagine that they didn't understand that. They're on their way to Jerusalem. They're all three gospels tell the story. I mean, if you look at the harmonies, which you should have, because coming up in the last week of Jesus' life, it'll become a very important book. If you don't have it, get with somebody and they'll show you what it looks like, and it's fairly reasonable. All three gospels tell the story pretty much the same. I mean, there's not a lot of difference. Mark seems to have the most complete version of this story, but they're all almost identical. Jesus tells them the chief priests and the teachers of law will condemn him to death and then hand him over to the Gentiles. The Chosen series we've been watching shows Peter in a light that's a little different as far as being, in many of the episodes, he is like a protector, like a security guy, always worried about his well-being. And I wonder sometimes that Jesus telling him this is not his way of kind of getting them ready for what's coming, knowing that if he doesn't say something, that they will jump in and try and stop the events. I don't know. It doesn't say that. It's just kind of you wonder why he would keep telling them this unless he wanted them to know this is going to happen. It's not something that could happen. It's just a thought. But let's continue on. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. Teacher, they said, we want you to do whatever we ask. What do you want me to do? He asked. They replied, let one of us sit at your right hand and the other at the left in your glory. You don't know what you're asking, Jesus said. Can you drink the cup I drink or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, you will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But to sit at the right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those whom they have been prepared. When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Jesus called them together and said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be a servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. I think it's pretty clear that Jesus is kind of setting this straight, right? He's setting the story straight. James and John come to Jesus, and I laugh because if you read Matthew's version, it says that James and John's mother came and sat down and made this request. Now, she's no stranger to Jesus. She will be one of the women at the crucifixion. So she's a disciple probably as well, not an apostle, but she's following Jesus as well. Jesus and James and John spent time with Jesus. They saw some pretty cool things. They saw the transfiguration. They saw all the healings and all the miracles. So, and this is a dilemma for a lot of us, because they were in the inner circle. They were really part of things. And I think sometimes as humans, they had no idea who Jesus really was. They thought he was king. He thought he was the savior, or the so many words you can use for it. They thought Jesus was coming to change everything, and they never thought about him as a servant. And it reads that the other 10 became indignant. Hello. That doesn't surprise anybody. I mean, how many of us have experienced this at work? You're doing a job and you're all excited and you're all stoked up about how hard you work, and you're looking at the future thinking, I could do this job. I could get promoted. I could be, and then someone else will come in and doing the same job, or maybe not even as good a job. But his ability to self-promote and push his way into graces of the boss will put you on the back burner, and they end up getting the job instead of you. And not everybody goes through that. I mean, some of us worked in positions where there were no promotions, myself included. But I mean, in my first jobs, even I had situations where people came in and were doing the same job, but because the boss liked them, or because they promoted themselves well, they got the position, the next upper or the better positions. And it causes this little grinding with people that are doing the job already. And I can't imagine that the other 10 weren't like, oh, what? We're all going out praying 2 by 2. We're all doing this. We're all doing that. And yet these two feel that they should be above us. And I think Jesus' statement with even the Gentile, they lord it over. And he wants to make sure that being in the inner circle is a job. I laugh how Jesus' response is such direct contrast to the way we do things in this kingdom. The people in this kingdom, that when they're connected to greatness, they expect certain things. I mean, Jesus talked about the disciples. I mean, the Pharisees sitting at all the nice tables, wearing the nicer clothes. And I thought to myself, well, in this kingdom that we live in, people that are connected to greatness say things like they get the best seats in the house. They ask for special favors, or expect, I should say, not ask. And sometimes they ask. Inside knowledge. They expect to know things first, or get special treats that nobody else gets. In this kingdom, people expect input on decisions. Could you imagine James and John deciding that maybe you should run it by us first, Jesus, before you say it? They expect people to serve them. They expect people to bow down and treat them with a certain respect that you wouldn't treat everybody. That's in such conflict to what Jesus is just telling them. Jesus says, God's kingdom, your desire for greatness makes you a servant. You must follow the examples. Jesus didn't. How do we take Jesus and say, this is how a king is treated? Show me in that book where the only one time I can think of where he's treated any different than anybody else, and that's Palm Sunday, right before they killed him. What kind of sales pitch is this? If you're trying to evangelize to people position themselves. I thought to myself, I asked myself these questions right before I started this, because it was like people position themselves in church so they can get their way, right? That's what they do. Or they work hard, and so our vote carries more weight than the others. Or how about we give more so the pastor will schmooze us and keep us happy? And I thought about that. I go, maybe it's time for a reset. Maybe we stop looking at how much we do and look how much God has done already. Jesus made his disciples no promise of greatness. In fact, everything I've read, he told them it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be tricky, and they're probably going to be killed. There you go. Take that message on the street to the disciples. Do we tell others when we're evangelizing, hey, this could kill you? In this country, probably not so much. But other parts of the world, yeah. I mean, it could cost you your life. we have to be careful putting this world's values in the kingdom of God. Our position in the church shouldn't give us any special powers. It should be not even an obligation. It's just part of who we are. If you're in a church and you've been there a long time and you're in leadership, it's not so much your opinion that matters. It's your effort. It's your heart. It's where you are with the people that sit in the seats next to you, where you are with the chores that need to be done every week at a church. Don't think there aren't any. They get done. There's mysterious people wandering around every Sunday doing things that nobody knows about. Do you realize somebody has to come in every week and put up signs? Every week somebody shows up and does that. Sorry to say that a lot of times it's the same guy over and over again. The girls up there in the front, they'll religiously and dutifully come in and do the communion and stuff and set it up so it goes seamless when people come in and go to church. Our position, our weight in the kingdom of God has little to do with our position in the church. God sees the heart, and I think Jesus just told us that it's your heart is what he's looking at, not your position. Maybe I don't know how many times I've met people in my life that have bragged about I'm an ordained minister in this and that, and I do this and that and this, and they expect the best seat in the house. They expect people to treat them differently than everybody else. That's what I have for you today, guys. I hope it was a blessing. I love the fact that we do this. There's 16 people on right now. So I got, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I probably shouldn't try to do this online, but what the heck? It's just your time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8. I got 8 comments, 8 people. There's 8 more watching sneaky. It's nice to have you with us. Even if you don't tell us who you are, I appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to sneak out of here because that's what I do. I hope it is a blessing to you. Have a firmly rooted day and may someone see Jesus in you. God bless you.